All right, we are live. All right, good afternoon, everyone. I know normally you hear me say good morning, everyone, but today we are on a good afternoon. We changed the time for this session and for next session. You guys are back in school and meeting at 11:30 in the morning. Didn't seem to work. So this hopefully will be a better time for you guys to come in and listen to the presentations the last 2 weeks, this week and next week. And don't forget, all the recordings are available to you. So if there was anything that you missed, you're able to get those and go back and watch them on your own time. And so I'm going to go ahead and give it just a minute here. But today we have Emerson College presenting, University of Louisville and Colorado College. And so they're all very unique in their own right. Amy Mitchell from Emerson College is having to hop off a little early because she's actually hosting a college fair at 6. So we're going to do things just a little different this time, and we're not going to keep our Q&A till the end. We're going to go ahead and allow it to happen during the presentation. So that way, if there are any questions that are specific to Emerson or to the University of Louisville, because V also needs to hop off just a little bit early. So you're going to be left with Matt and I at the end, and hopefully we know what we're talking about and we can answer all the questions for V and Amy. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and introduce them to you. So first we have Amy Mitchell. She's the Senior Associate Director of Undergraduate Admissions at Emerson College. Amy's current goal is to help students find their voice and a place to explore their creativity. This is often an impossible task in a world too quick to stifle anything out of the ordinary. In addition to this, Amy is always looking to teach a love of writing, expand her own writing skills, and to pursue a long-term career in education. So she would be a good person to ask about essays, it sounds like. So, and then we have V. Aldemia. She's the Senior Admissions Counselor of Regional Admissions for Southern California at the University of Louisville. V is the Senior Regional Admissions Counselor for the University of Louisville, U of L, located in beautiful Louisville, Kentucky. With more than 12 years of experience in higher education, she's an expert in advising students who are looking to fulfill their educational dreams. V hails from Kosovo, a small country in Southern Europe, close to the Mediterranean Sea, and she speaks 4 different languages. She has not shared with me what all those languages are, so maybe she will share with us. Her international background not only enables her to navigate the realm of intercultural exchange and diversity, but also ignited a lifelong passion for the importance of higher education and mutual understanding in a fast evolving world. She's based in Los Angeles, California, so she's in our time zone. And so is Amy, right? Yes, and so is Amy.
Yep,
and so Colorado, you guys are in the same time zone as us, aren't you, Matt? No, you're an hour, 1 hour. Okay, so Matt's the only one who's not in the same time zone as us, but that's okay. It's just an hour. She's located and based in LA and works with students from Western United States. So you can ask her all the questions you need to ask her before she takes off early, and that for Amy too. Last, we have Matt Bonzer. He's the Director of Admissions at Colorado College. He hails from Los Angeles and California and Portland, Oregon. So I totally haven't heard the whole story on that yet. So maybe he will share. He is an alum of Colorado College with a bachelor's in political science and Spanish. So it looks like we can go a little maybe bilingual or trilingual during the presentation. His admission programs and projects that he's in charge of at Colorado College is a systems operation and international recruitment for Colorado College. He's also the person in charge of Northwest Los Angeles through Santa Barbara, and he has some parts of San Luis Obispo. So you definitely want to ask him any questions relating to that. And I know he'll give you some more information during the presentation. So that is just a little bit about our presenters today. We are going to start off with Emerson and Amy. Amy, when she's done, will answer any of your questions, and then we'll move right on to V. And I think at that point, Amy is going to sign off, so because she's got to get moving. And then we'll go from there. So I am going to go ahead and get started. And we will hand it over to you, Amy.
Perfect. Thank you guys so much. Thank you for taking the time. I know you all are busy and it's been a hectic time. So just thanks for taking the time to chat with me. And it's true, I am based in California. I cover the entire state of California and Hawaii. And so what that means for you as students is that if you do want to reach out to me, I'm sort of your first and main contact. I'm the human on the end of the application process, which is always nice to know that there is an actual human that's taking the time to get to know everything about you, and that's me. So please make sure you take note of my contact information at the end. And we're going to jump right in and talk a little bit about Emerson. All right, so Emerson is a pretty special place. It's in the heart of Boston, so it's in a fantastic location in Boston. It's actually in the theater district in Boston, and that is just directly across the street from the Boston Commons, which is that big park in Boston, sort of like Central Park in New York, and really in the heart of what is a beautiful neighborhood with all of these amazing theaters. The theater that I'm sitting in now is actually one of Emerson's theaters. We've taken two of these sort of beautiful, built in the late 1800s, early 1900s theaters and revamped them back to historical standards. And they're actually our student theaters. So we are incredibly lucky in the location that we're in. We've been around, as you can see, an awfully long time, since 1880. We are a small school, so right around 3,800 students. I always say we're on the big side of small. So we're sort of in that sweet spot where you know most people, but you don't know everybody that you run across, which is kind of a nice mix to have. And we're in an urban environment, so you get that sense of city living, obviously in the theater district in Boston, but we're in the world's teeniest, tiniest urban environment. So our entire campus is made up of 12 buildings and a 2-block walking radius. So if you were to walk from one end of campus all the way to the very furthest end of campus, it might take you 10 minutes if you're kind of meandering. So again, that's sort of that best of both worlds feel, where you get city living and you're in an urban environment and getting more comfortable and confident navigating a true city with public transportation, but it is on the smaller side of that. Because we're on the small side, it's a 13-to-1 student to faculty ratio. So what's really nice to know about that is that means classes are going to be small, around 20 students. You're going to know your faculty by their first names, so you're going to get to know them really well. You're going to be working on projects with them. You'll probably be doing some internships with them. So you really have that opportunity to make a deeper connection with faculty. And most of our faculty are working professionals in their fields on top of being full-time faculty. So they have access to some pretty incredible things based on their personal careers as well. We are a really diverse school. We're listed as one of the most diverse smaller liberal arts schools. Students are literally coming from everywhere. And we are really fortunate to have such a wide group of voices in that small population. We also boast a pretty great employment rate, and that is in all of our programs. In fact, I think theater is actually at 90% and film is actually at 92% last time I checked, within 6 months of graduation. We do have a percentage of students that go on to graduate school directly after as well, that we did not include in this percentage because some of the students are wanting to go on and kind of further their study as well. But students are doing really, really well in their careers. As a part of our campus, we have 5 residence centers. So 5 housing opportunities for students. It is required that students live on campus the first 3 years, which sounds like a lot, but the reasoning behind students living on campus for the first 3 years is that we are in an incredibly expensive neighborhood in Boston. And a lot of our students the majority of our students are going to be doing things, on campus well after hours. So a student might be in the editing suites until 1 a.m. and we don't want them getting on a train and going 45 minutes away where there's a more affordable space for them to live than getting an apartment in our expensive neighborhood. So it's important to us that students get that opportunity to live on campus and take advantage of all that's happening there. And we have a really wide range of different housing options for students and a number of different living learning communities as well. We'll talk next about, that's pretty Boston. It's actually water directly across the street from us in the Boston Commons. There's actually a swan pond there where swans actually nest and have little baby swans every year. So it's pretty neat to see that. So we're in a really beautiful location. We'll go on and talk a little bit here about the liberal arts requirements. So one of the things that is so integral to the Emerson education is the general education program. So we really believe that we are educating students as to be the wonderful, incredible human beings that they're going to be in the world. And because of that, we want them to be well-rounded. We want them to have a deeper understanding of the world at large and how that affects what it is that they're coming to study. So all of the students will take 1/3 of their courses in the general education classes. Couple of things that are unique about the way that we do that. We will ask them to space their general education classes out across their entire 4 years so that you are getting to focus in your major right away from the very beginning. And it'll be kind of classes that you would expect, but with a little bit of an Emerson twist, as we are this sort of creative, quirky school. So, you know, all students will take a couple of really strong writing classes their first year, as well as a speech class. But from there will be classes that will kind of be a little bit different. So the perspectives classes is a way to kind of anchor yourself in how you see the world. And there's a pretty wide range of classes. So if you are taking your history classes, for instance, you can take them in different types of cinema and different types of theater and different types of music. A lot of those classes that you would think a science class would be pretty straightforward aren't really. So for instance, one of the science classes is the politics of water. And you're studying water as a commodity and what happens, how do you use water as a resource, and what happens when you don't have enough clean water, and how can we create cheap filtration systems. There's a class called Making of Monsters, which is literally studying what creates fear in people, the biology of creation of certain monsters, and what that means in our world at large. So lots of really interesting classes that are designed to make you think more deeply about what it is that you're coming to study. And very often you can do some sort of creative project as opposed to taking, you know, as opposed to writing a paper. So you might do, if you were in that politics of water class, you might actually do a documentary film instead of doing some sort of written project at the end of that course. We also do have an incredible honors program. So the honors program is designed for any major. It's honors in those liberal arts courses. It's something that you do apply to when you apply to the college, and it is pretty selective. We only take about 50 students for that honors program. It does come with a half tuition scholarship, but it means that you are taking higher level courses, you're working on this giant kind of capstone project, and you're getting that lovely scholarships as well as graduating with honors. So really cool program if you're someone that thinks, you know, I really want to dive even more deeply into those liberal arts courses. So we have two main schools at Emerson. We are not going to be the school that has 200 different majors. We're very unique and particular in what it is that we offer. And because of that, we have sort of these two main schools. So I'm just going to do a quick breakdown of the different majors because they are unique to us, and some of them have kind of unusual names. So Business of Creative Enterprises. This is our business program. So it is not your traditional business program. It is traditional business in the sense of some of the courses that you'll take, but it's business for the creative economy. So this will be business in any sort of creative industries. So if you are someone that has wanted to open your own fashion boutique, if you're someone that has wanted to be a film producer, if you're someone that's wanted to open a music recording studio, this would be a good program for you. The head of this program is Wes Jackson. He's very famous in the music industry. He's done a lot of work with like The Roots and Jay-Z and Dave Matthews Band and a bunch of other well-known folks. So it is somebody who's had an intense background in that sort of creative economy and understanding how that works. So this is a pretty unique program to us. We do have this thing that they do in that program where it's kind of like Shark Tank, where you get to pitch a number of ideas and actually get funding to start your business. You'll see it all over Boston. There is a caffeinated chocolate that's sold throughout all of the kind of college campus bookstores that was created by Emerson students. So lots of really cool opportunities there. Communication sciences and disorders. This is for anybody who wants to be a speech pathologist, for anybody who wants to work with anybody who has language development or delayed language. We do have the Robbins Clinic on campus, so you actually are working with actual clients in this program, which is really an incredible opportunity, and doing some really unique things. You'll often work with the visual media arts students who are building different types of games, and many of those games are designed to work with folks in this program. So for instance, they do a game that they've built where it's recognizing, to help anybody who's autistic recognize different facial expressions and what they mean, and so that might be something you'd be working with your clients. We're incredibly well known in communications. So we have, of course, general communications, political communications, sort of interesting this time of year. The Emerson poll, just for the record, is usually listed as the #1 most accurate poll. which is sort of interesting. And political communication is sort of like political science, but more in the communication realm. So if you wanted to be a speechwriter, a campaign manager, a politician, work in the nonprofit sector, write bills, anything along that lines, this would be a good program for you. And we do a semester in Washington, D.C., so students are able to do an internship in D.C. with a number of senators at the White House, a pretty wide variety of options there. Public relations just started this last year. Many students were already taking advantage of that. And it is, a lot of students will do PR specifically for the entertainment industry because we're so strong in that, but it's a pretty incredible PR program. Sports communication. This is anything to do with sports that is not playing sports. So if you want to be a manager, if you want to do sports broadcasting, sports marketing, anything in that realm, this is an incredibly strong program in that. We have students that are interning at every major sports team in Boston, and if you don't know, you should probably know that Boston is an incredible sports city. We will talk in a little bit about some of our global programs. Australia is new, but we have a couple of really incredible global programs, which we'll hold off and kind of talk about in just a minute on a separate slide. We're often listed as #1 in the country for journalism, so it is a really strong journalism program. It's a pretty wide range of different styles of journalism that we do. So we of course still do print, though that industry has changed quite a bit. So we do a lot with different types of media and journalism. The main courses are actually taught in a newsroom environment. We went to the Boston Globe and we actually measured out the square footage of the newsroom and set it up exactly as the Boston Globe's newsroom, which is really fantastic for students because many students will actually be at the Globe doing an internship and they'll know exactly where everything is because they've already sort of worked in that environment. And then marketing. We are one of the strongest marketing programs out there, especially with studying the psychology of branding. We are one of the very few undergrad programs that actually has a focus group room. So it is like a regular conference room, but it's set up with two-way mirrors and entire recording suite that's hidden so that you can actually bring clients in and have them go over your marketing campaign with the general public and really understand what the public is thinking from what your campaign is. And we have big companies all the time that are wanting to actually use that room for their own marketing campaigns, and we will only allow them to do that if they actually have Emerson students be a part of that in some way, shape, or form. So next we're going to go to the School of the Arts, which is what I think a lot of people think of us as and know us as is with the School of the Arts program. So we have the only Bachelor of Fine Arts in the country of comedic arts, and it is sort of a trifecta of comedy. You're literally studying what's funny, why it's funny, so the history of comedy, you are studying comedy performance, and then you're going to also study writing in comedy. And that's really the backbone of that program, is the writing program in that area. So it's an incredible program for students to really take advantage of understanding if you want to do anything in the comedy industry. Global BFA in film art, we'll talk about in just a second. And then of course, we're very well known for anything in theater. Musical theater is incredibly competitive. We have theater and education, which is where all of our actors will start. And that is going to be a more general theater, I'm sorry, not theater education and performance. Theater and performance is where a lot of general acting majors will start. And that everything is a BFA. And from there, at the end of sophomore year, if you want to be in a conservatory style program, you would audition for the acting BFA, which is run like a conservatory. The theater and performance degree will still be a BFA and allow our actors to be able to do minors, to be able to do study abroad. So the nice thing is you have the track of choosing conservatory style or not, depending on what makes the most sense for you. We of course have stage and screen design. We have design and tech for film and TV as well. Anything in theater education, which will certify you to teach, as well as theater education and performance. All of these programs will require either an audition or an interview and portfolio, just depending on which aspect you are thinking of going into. And because of what's happening in the current kind of climate, they will be online auditions this year, which is a little bit unusual. Then we have our Visual Media Arts College. So media studies is going to be more like the the actual thinking, the critique of film or anything in media, and media arts production is going to be more of the hands-on side. Probably most well known for film. We're in the top 10 film schools in the country. I think we just got up to number 8, maybe 9 or 8, I can't remember which, but in the top 10 film schools in the country. So very strong in anything in film. And then we do a pretty wide range of different options from there, from sound design to studio TV to photography to cinematography to animation to kind of everything in between. And then of course we have our writing, literature, and publishing program, which houses creative writing and then writing, literature, and publisher. For the WLP program, you can actually apply at the end of that program to stay an additional year and get your master's in publishing at the end of that program. We have a new thing that is not on here right now, which is that we also have an interdisciplinary degree where you can come in as an interdisciplinary degree student. And from there, you can actually build your own major, and you can do that at the very start of your program. All right, so we are, our president's mission, he's really committed to wanting our students to have a global mindset and to think about the world at large. So we have 3 global programs. The first that we started was actually the one in the middle, which is the Global BFA in Film Art. That is a program where you actually graduate in 3 years. You spend your 3 academic years at Paris College of Art in France, and then you'll spend your summers either in Boston, well, 2 summers in Boston, 3 summers in Boston, and 1 summer in the Netherlands. Which is a program really designed to be more experimental film or film art, as opposed to our other film program based in Boston, which is going to be much more of a Hollywood style filmmaking program. The Switzerland programs are with Franklin University in Switzerland. We have a program for the business of creative enterprises, which is going to help anybody who wants to do a more global business to think about anything as an international business. And then we have a global BA in international and political communications, which is going to be for any student that wants to do that more international mindset in politics. And both of those students will spend their first 2 years in Switzerland. And then starting brand new this coming year will be a global BA in the business of creative enterprises in Australia. And that's going to be a really great opportunity for students who want to study abroad in the business as well. I'm going to try to talk fast to use up my last few minutes. All right, we'll just do this one fast. We have a lot of minors, a lot of really cool minors like podcasting, esports, pretty wide range. It's very possible for students to be a triple minor, so it is definitely possible to do more than 1 minor and add that into your program. We have actually 3 campuses, which a lot of people don't realize. We have the main campus in Boston. We have a campus in LA, right in the heart of Hollywood as well. That campus is designed for students to study senior year. They live in the building, take a couple of classes there, but it's really designed for them to do an intense internship that will hopefully lead to a job, and many times it does. That is something that film students will definitely take advantage of and do internships at any of the major film studios in the area. Also, a ton of really cool stuff shoots out of that building. It's a pretty incredible opportunity for students. And then we also own our own medieval castle in the Netherlands, so students can actually live in a castle, take classes in a castle, study in a castle environment, and that's something that all students can apply for to do as early as sophomore year. It's a program that's really designed to get you comfortable and confident with travel. So classes will end early on Thursday so that you can backpack around Europe. And most students will visit at least 10 countries during that program. And you're living in a castle with a moat and a drawbridge, which is really cool. And then we have a number of other, I won't even go into them because of time, but a number of other really cool global programs as well. All right. We'll do this quick. Lots of stuff to do on campus. Tons of different organizations, tons of different clubs. We're D3 in sports, tons of internships. We're also part of the Pro Arts Consortium, which means you can take classes in Boston at any of the other Pro Arts Consortium colleges without having to apply. So like if you want to take some classes at Berklee College of Music, you can take up to 2 a semester. Actually, I'm sorry, I think it's 2 a year without having to apply, and those credits will apply to your Emerson degree. We have really cool alumni. This is just some. We actually, I think when we first did the slideshow, we had like 40 that we had listed. And we were like, okay, that's probably too many. But there are a lot of really cool alumni. So you can kind of do your research and see a ton of people that you know. Okay, we'll go through the application process. We are a Common App school. Easiest way to apply is to the Common App. We do have some Emerson specific questions as well as look at your personal statement. We are test optional. We've been test optional now for 3 years. So we're a school that really cares about the option to be test optional. You will either do an additional essay or you will do a portfolio in lieu of test scores, and then we'll basically score that as if it were your test scores. As I said before, for the performing arts, musical theater will have a pre-screen. Otherwise, the rest of the theater programs will just have your audition. There will be portfolio reviews for anybody in tech, interviews for anybody in tech and education, and then education will have an essay requirement. Comedic arts does require a creative sample. It can be either written or a performance piece. And then media arts production does not require, but does encourage that you submit a sample of work, but it's not required. We are a school that cares about affordability and wants you to be able to comfortably come in for your education. So we do require the FAFSA as well as the CSS profile to be able to review you for financial aid. We automatically review all of our students for merit scholarships. There's scholarships that you will be able to maintain for all 4 years. And they range in pretty wide range from $5,000 to $20,000 a year, just depending. So lots of, and you can get more than one. So lots of opportunities for merit aid as well for students. Couple of deadlines to keep in mind. This year will be the first year ever that we have decided to take on early decision, which is binding. So if that's something you're thinking about, reach out to me and we can talk about whether or not that makes the most sense for you. We also have early action as an option. So you can apply early, get an answer back from us by December, but not tell us whether or not you're planning to come until May 1st. And then of course we have regular decision. The honors application follows 2 weeks after your regular application if you do want to apply for honors. Again, it's not a requirement. Okay, so sorry, I feel like I took up too much time, but keep in touch with me. I do have to run soon, but if anybody has any quick questions, I also don't want to take up too much of my other wonderful colleagues' time, but anybody has any quick questions?
Any of you who have questions for Amy, because she will be logging off because she has to run to another college fair. So now would be the time to do it. You can just go ahead and put that into the Q&A. I'll give it a quick couple seconds here. If not, you can reach out to me. You also have her email there, and I'm sure she will get back to you.
Absolutely. Feel free to reach out anytime. You may not even know you have questions yet, and they may just pop up later.
True. All right. Well, we're going to leave it at that then, and we're going to send it over to V. Amy, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thanks so much. Thanks, everybody. Take care. Bye.
Bye, Amy.
Okay.
Hi, guys. So just to answer Ms. Orlando's question, so I speak 4 languages: Spanish, sometimes English, just kidding, Albanian, my native language, and Serbo-Croatian. So just a little fun fact. So let's get right into it. We're the University of Louisville. I would highly encourage you to go to our website so you can find out a little bit more information in depth about our programs. I'm going to touch on a couple of things that are really important to students from California. If you want to go to the next slide. Perfect, excellent. So what are students doing? Why are students choosing University of Louisville? Well, so one of the reasons, besides the fact that our programs are not impacted, is that we're accessible, affordable, with automatic scholarships, are thriving and welcoming campus culture. At the U of L, we value diversity and strive for inclusion. Our students can participate in exciting research as early as freshman year. I'll talk about some of the options then. And we offer many opportunities to grow personally and professionally inside and outside of the classroom. Our university began its journey in 1798 as a private institution at first, but now serves as a premier public technology flagship in Kentucky and is the fastest to earn both designations as Carnegie R1 Research Institution and Community Engagement status, one of only 69 out of thousands of higher education institutions to have earned this distinction in the US. As a mid-sized public institution with around 12,000 undergraduate students, we're a great option for students who want a well-rounded college experience without getting lost in the numbers. Our students enjoy small classroom sizes at around 26 students on average per class, 14:1 student-professor ratio, great support services for students in every grade, and tutoring in every subject, including even higher level engineering to ensure students complete their college work in 4 years, sometimes even less. including in programs like engineering, business, and nursing, which, by the way, are some of the more popular programs for students coming from California. And turns out because those programs are heavily impacted usually here. We are also very fortunate to have our own medical school, our own university hospital system, and direct entry into our dentistry school and our 3-3 law school program. Okay, perfect. So while there are a lot of accolades to certainly be very proud of at University of Louisville, which are on your screen, I'm going to delve into a little bit more information. For example, we're an institution of many firsts. We're the first university in the country to have a hospital, first to conduct an artificial heart and hand transplant. We're the ones who helped develop the first Gardasil vaccine. We also have a very well-known spinal institute. We're actually helping right now a football player who's been injured from the West Coast, among many others, who is recovering and learning to walk again. And freshmen can actually start applying to participate in our world-changing research projects as early as freshman year. And beyond traditional research, our students look forward to connections to internships, jobs, and co-ops. 4 career centers on campus result in many internships, not only at the university, but also in the city of Louisville, where there's 3 Fortune 500 companies around the country and the world. Our engineering students have opportunities for co-ops where they can earn an average of $34,000 while they're in college, but this can actually go up to $90,000 during the time they're in college. So clearly I didn't study the correct thing. Co-ops usually start during the 2nd semester of sophomore year and usually go 1 spring, 1 summer, and 1 fall semester, and they do earn 1 credit per each co-op, which is also really beneficial. And we go to the next slide. Oops, one back. Excellent. Okay, addressing something that's really affecting all of us, hence we are not in person, but virtually. So we're very, very lucky to be one of only 13 biocontainment laboratories that work with the CDC to conduct pandemic research on viral diseases. One of our breakthroughs right now is being researched and funded by a company in California, and human trials are actually taking place as we speak. And this is for an injection to lessen the severity of COVID symptoms. And since the coronavirus pandemic began, UOFL has taken a major leadership, can't even speak anymore, role in investigating and developing innovative ways to prevent, diagnose, and treat the virus. Researchers are working to block coronavirus from infecting human cells, launching groundbreaking initiatives for testing, building robots that can sanitize high-risk areas, and more. Okay, getting really excited about UOFL. Meet Dr. Neeli Bendapudi. She is our 18th president. She's fairly new. Besides the fact that she's very personable and actually gives out her cell phone number to students, I'm not kidding you. She's our first woman president and first person of color to be president of UOFL. So since she has begun at the university, she's launched our strategic plan geared to make the University of Louisville a great place to learn, work, and invest, while also fostering diversity, equity, and inclusion. Under her leadership and with the help of our faculty and staff, the University of Louisville has actually responded with a lot of care and compassion to the COVID-19 crisis as it unfolded in the spring, and always kept students and their success at the center of all the decisions, leveraging our medical and research expertise surrounding COVID-19, which allowed us to safely invite students back to campus this fall. And this actually was just published as of today, a couple of minutes ago, that we are one of the, if not the school with the lowest amount of students being infected with COVID. So we are very encouraged by that news. And it's all because of our care and community and working together. Also, one of my favorite things to talk about, our location is very beneficial to our students. Louisville is a city of 1.2 million people with many opportunities for fun, recreation, and internships, again, in Fortune 500 companies that are based in Louisville. This city is known for its beautiful landscape, for changing but mild seasons, so nothing to be worried about, with parks designed by the same person who designed Central Park in New York. It's been named top food destination in the world in 2016. It's home to the world's only underground zip lining. That's correct, because Louisville as a city actually sits on top of caves. So it's kind of exciting. We have also the biggest fireworks show in the US. And of course, the one thing that everybody will know us from is the world-renowned horse race known as the Kentucky Derby. And also we're a city where 109 languages are spoken full-time. And yes, the four languages that I do speak, they're actually spoken in Louisville as well. Okay, so don't have a car, absolutely no problem. We have free shuttles around campus to and from the airport, which, by the way, is only 2.5 miles away from our campus. You can take the shuttle also to Cardinal Stadium, all around downtown Metro Louisville, including malls and grocery stores, which is great for shopping if you're into that like I am. If you're working on research, internships, co-ops, or simply want to enjoy the city of Louisville, you are definitely going to be taken care of. We have shuttles, but if you do want to bring your own car, you are also more than welcome to do so as well. Okay, next slide. Okay, briefly, we're going to touch on housing. Our students feel home in our many styles of housing, and more exciting housing options are actually being built currently as we speak. We are a residential university, and all students have a 2-year live on campus requirement. One of my favorite benefits I wish I had when I attended college is that you don't have to worry about finding those annoying quarters where you can never find them when you need to do laundry. You have two free washes of laundry per week. And this should really help to launder the face mask that we all have to wear nowadays. So another unique feature is that you can actually, if you kind of already know that University of Louisville is the place you want to spend the next 4 years of your life, you can start applying for housing as early as November and be settled and ready to go already by March by knowing exactly who your roommates are and where you're going to be living. Okay, now let's focus more a little bit on our students, the Louisville Cardinals. Next slide, excellent. Not only do our students shine inside the classroom, but also the many organizations, clubs, and Division I sports we have. You may recognize quite a few professional athletes actually spread across the country, even in the West Coast, playing in major league teams and earning national titles even after graduating from the University of Louisville. And with more than 450 different organizations, Greek life, including the Divine Nine and intramural sports, there's something for everyone to enjoy. And next slide. Okay, so applying to U of L is fairly simple. You can either go directly to our website or you utilize the Common App. You will have a $25 application fee. There are those students who could potentially get a no fee if they qualify for free or reduced lunch. So we did go test optional, which is really exciting and really helpful to students. So if you don't have test scores, that's not a problem. You can still apply to the university. And I'll tell you a little bit more about how scholarships work with this as well. One thing I would say is that be sure to be part of our mailing list. We have constantly updates on all kinds of different things, including how test optional will work for certain programs. So if you want to go to the next option, next slide, excellent. So while we are on a roll-in admission basis, we don't have any particular deadlines to watch out for. As long as you apply by May 1, you're going to be okay. But obviously, the sooner you apply, you will hear in about a month or so after you have submitted your application. You'll hear from us. I'm here to help you with the admission process, so feel free to reach out. But this is just a little bit of a timeline for you to look at. We already have the application open. FAFSA is available already starting on October 1st. And then if you are going for example, competitive scholarships, you can reach out to me and we can talk a little bit more in person about these. That's the only deadline to worry about, which is going to be December 15. We'll go to the next slide. Okay. So when I tell parents and students from California what our cost is, they actually don't believe me. So as you can see here, if you see it online, right, it must be true. So basically the total cost for us, total direct cost is about $38,000, right? And so that includes tuition, room, meals, and student activities fee. And if you want to go to the next slide, so students like you who are from any of the 10 counties in Southern California have a very special scholarship, which makes life so much easier. And this is, again, one of those things that students and families are really, really excited to find out about. So as long as you're admitted, whether that's test optional or with test scores, as long as you're admitted to the University of Louisville, you automatically qualify for a $10,000 scholarship per year, okay? Now, at this point, we don't have any further information on scholarships beyond that. Again, if you're part of our mailing list, once my contact information pops up, there is a QR code that you can scan and you can be part of the mailing list. We will share all the updates regarding additional scholarship information that we will get updates on. The next slide. Okay, so I talked earlier about accessibility. So not only are we easily accessible, of course, by airplane, having an airport close by, but also when it comes to admissions, it is not super difficult to get into the University of Louisville, and especially for programs that are heavily impacted around the area here. For example, business, if you look at the current admission guidelines, you'll notice what it takes for you to be admitted directly into the business program, right? So not pre-business, not studying something else and then having to fight your way in. These are the guidelines, admission guidelines for you to get into the program of your choice and start studying exactly what you want to do. And the next slide will also include nursing, which is again one of the more popular majors, dental hygiene, which is kind of unique to the University of Louisville, and Speed School of Engineering, the #1 school for engineering in Kentucky. So these are, again, the guidelines. Now, it does include the test scores, right? So far, we have not gone test optional for these particular programs. You can get admitted to the university without having test scores, but as far as for these programs, as of right now, there's no decision. We are expecting something to come up soon. So if you are part of the mailing list or if you want to reach out to me separately, you're more than welcome to do so. I will definitely keep you informed. And this is my contact information. You can reach out to me on my cell phone. Honestly, the easiest way to get in touch with me. You can also reach me via email, and you can schedule one-on-one appointments with me directly, so that if you don't feel very comfortable speaking out right now, you're more than welcome to reach out to me afterwards and learn how to become a Louisville Cardinal. And with that, thank you for your time. I'll wait a little bit for questions.
All right, everyone. So V needs to take off early also because she has another presentation starting at 6. I feel for all of you who are jumping from one webinar to the next. So if there are any questions for her right now, please go ahead and just type those into your Q&A. Once again, if not, Matt and I are just going to answer all the questions at the end for Louisville and Emerson.
There you go, exactly.
So, but yes, go ahead and put in any questions in there. If not, once again, her contact information is here, and it will also be on the last slide. Anyone? All right, V, you're off the hook.
Well, thanks, guys. Pleasure working with you. Thanks for your time, and go Cards. Have a good one.
Bye. Thanks, V.
Thank you.
And Matt, it is all yours. And you don't have to go fast if you don't want to.
No, I'll be here all night.
Okay.
No, not really. Thank you for including Colorado College in this. I'm super appreciative, and I think in this group, I think you're going to see a range of institutions over the course of the night, as you've already heard from Emerson and Louisville, like 2 distinct institutions that are serving their missions out so well, and I think CC represents a third that is quite a bit different based on its mission. And so, I hope what you get out of tonight is to see institutions thriving to be their best selves, and that is not actually a generic view of like what college should be, right? But that's really particular to the institution. So I will take my time. I do want to echo back to a handful of things that my other colleagues referenced earlier in the night, some things that I feel like I might be able to gloss over a little bit, and some other things that we might want to dig into a little bit more. So again, Matt Bonzer, Director of Admission at Colorado College. I also graduated from CC in 1998 and have kind of been in admission world ever since then, the last 6 years as director with CC. The dual story of Los Angeles and Portland, Oregon are that, I grew up in Southern California outside of La Mirada, Eastern LA County area, but moved to Portland, Oregon for high school. So I think it's waxed and waned over the years, but I feel like I can claim both of those as my hometowns. But now I've been in Colorado Springs for 20 years. It's an amazing city. It is home to the U.S. Olympic Committee as well as the Olympic Training Center. It's a city of just over 700,000 people in the main metro. So it is not quite an urban experience by any means. We're in a neighborhood, but we're also about 10 blocks from the center of downtown. So there really is that hustle and bustle when you want it, but we're certainly a residential campus when you're on our acreage. So there are streets going through. You've got to look both ways when you cross the street. You've got to be aware of your city presence, and that certainly presents opportunities to be engaged in the local area. But we're also about 5 miles from national forests. So the ability to get away and get out into the wilderness and enjoy the sunshine of Colorado is something that our students are certainly drawn to in a very big way. And that happens like in our classes, but certainly in a recreational sense as well. I'll talk a little bit about that. Sustainability is a very big part of our mission. And this includes achieving carbon neutrality as of January of 2020. Solar is quite a popular thing in Colorado, and that's something that we've been able to achieve both through generating sustainability on the electrical side, like through generation, but also around waste and insulation and things like that. So that is a big part of our institution. If you go on to the next one, give you some particulars here. We are, of this group of three, we are the smallest institution at 2,200 undergraduates. We are almost exclusively an undergraduate population, all studying in a Bachelor of Arts curriculum, representing the broad experience of coursework that our students will be expected to complete. So what you should expect, and I think you'll hear this over and over with CC, is that we're going to be, we're going to push our students to be intellectually adventurous. They've got to think critically, they've got to learn intentionally, they've got to be really focused and engaged in that classroom environment. All of our classes will be very, very small, from the intro levels of as many as 25 students, all the way through thesis 4 years later, where you might have a minimum of 1 student in your classroom. You're going to be well known on a first name basis by faculty. You're going to get to know your classmates. You're going to get to know those faculty members quite well. We don't have TAs ever teaching coursework. So your access to a strong student body within your class and to faculty to guide your independent learning is something that we focus on from day one. Average class sizes is going to be 16. So you're going to see at many of our institutions a divergence between the student faculty ratio, which in our case is 10 or 11 to 1, versus the average class size, which is 16, because not all faculty are teaching each section at the institution, but you will have an incredibly small classroom experience all through your existence at the college. We operate, though, in an academic curriculum, if you move on to the next slide, that is very much different than what most any other college in the States really offers. There are a handful that will do a January term or a summer session on an intensive schedule, but we're one of the few that will do a one-by-one curriculum all through the academic year. So in a typical year, and I'll talk a little bit about what that means this year, because that is not typical, we will offer 8 courses per year, 4 in the fall semester, and 4 plus a January half block in the spring semester. So 8 full blocks. Each of those is divided up into a 3.5 week course, right? So roughly Monday through Friday for the first 3 weeks, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday for that half week. There is no mandated schedule that all faculty have to fall in line to, right? Because they know that you don't have another course to get to for 3.5 weeks. They have all of your attention for better and for worse, and you have all of their attention for better and for worse. So there really is that ability to dive in, like get into the meat of the curriculum, ask questions, be curious, get excited about that subject, really become an expert in that material in a quite an intensive way before then wrapping things up at the end of that 3.5 week period, completing your final research paper, presentation, performance, whatever that might be. 4.5 day break, breather, relax, reset, come back into a brand new class. So as you think about the pace and the style at CC, it is quite different, quite intense within the block in some ways, and that you're achieving significant learning outcomes every single day. And building upon that the next day, you have to be engaged, you get to be engaged fully every single day of that class, because there are no excuses. You don't have another history term paper to worry about in that other class. You don't have those other kinds of academic distractions. You really do get to focus in that subject, whether that's something that you're trying out for the very first time, or something that you already know is a passion of yours. You're really able to dive into that and make the most of it. So as you think about the kind of learner that you are, some of you are thinking about like, oh my gosh, like I could read an entire book today for homework and I could discuss it for hours tomorrow. That sounds so much fun. And that's a great impulse. And that's certainly true at CC. You know, the flexibility that exists with us operates in some ways and not in others, right? Some of us will require a little bit more time to kind of sit and ponder and think about the material, and 3.5 weeks may not be quite as an appealing option if you want to be able to process that material for a lot longer. You want to be able to play that off over the series of weeks, more than what a block can afford, right? So this is, I think, a deciding point for you all in thinking about the ways in which you want to study and learn, and those trade-offs of spreading yourself thin across multiple subjects, or putting yourself in one really intensive kind of environment. Because I think, emblematic of life at CC is that we actually don't have an hour-to-hour day-to-day kind of schedule that faculty are mandated to follow, right? So most classes meet from 9 to noon, with a break in the middle somewhere. Many will reconvene in the afternoon for more hands-on work, lab, studio time, in the film studio, whatever that might be. But their faculty are really able to design a schedule that's most appropriate to that, right? So you're fully embedded to that adventure, whatever it might really look like on a given day. So there isn't a rushing off to that next class, but really a focus and an intensity in some ways to our courses. If you go on to the next slide, one of the things that I think CC is really quite well known for as a small institution is the ways in which we can maximize not just the 100-acre campus that we sit on, but the city that we live in, the Rocky Mountain region that we exist in as well, so that students can get off campus and really draw some of those connections between the academic and theoretical work with the like real life, messy, implemented aspects of that, right? So that's being embedded in organizations to get a real life look at how the subject translates into the career world. That is, students who are taking afternoon field trips to go and see dinosaur fossils that they learned about in class this morning, that's heading out to Denver to participate in arts activities, but also it's going to be significantly further afield as well. You should expect that classes will travel in the normal times for days and weeks at a time as part of that kind of embedded deep learning. And so that might be a class on globalization and immigration, hopscotching the US-Mexico border, where you're interviewing members of local communities, citizens, leaders, and what have you, about the real issues on the ground and how that ties in to the political theory underlying that. You might also find, like in film and new media studies, something like the Colorado Documentary Project, where students are able to go off campus, explore great stories, and then have those vetted by our own Rocky Mountain PBS staff, and really get professional feedback about what those stories could do. And then those all air on that Rocky Mountain PBS station thereafter. So really building up a professional resume and portfolio during students' time with us. And so that means that over the long term, right, there are some even more extraordinary kinds of classes, things like Indonesian gamelan in Bali, Hinduism in India. We do a class on the Odyssey and the Iliad in the Greek Isles on a sailboat. There are these really like fun, adventurous, and hard work kinds of classes that students can do just for a block or two, right? So 3.5 weeks or 7 weeks. Students, of course, can also take advantage of the semester and year-long programs that we put together ourselves and have affiliated with us. So we expect that infusion of the real world into the curriculum is something that our students will have at some point along the way, whether that's something that requires a passport or in our backyard. We expect that field study is going to be a significant aspect of a student's experience with us. So if you go on to the next one, coming along with that, right, is this great deal of independence for a student really to design their educational plan overall, right? So a major at CC will be limited to no more than 1/2 of a student's curricular time. So that is, if you're doing the math at home, 8 blocks a year times 4 years equals a 32 block graduation requirement. Any major is not allowed to be any more than 16 courses, and most are more like 13 or 14. And so that affords students a good amount of time to yes, have a focus area, but also play around with minors and elective courses and really build a composite for their educational goals. So that's true within the standard classroom, but we also expect that students, whether in the summer or over breaks, are going to pursue their own independent ventures. And so that can be something like the collaborative research program, where faculty and students are co-designing original projects all across the curriculum with stipends to boot. That might be fully independent research projects, things like the Keller Venture Grant, where students can apply for grant funding. They funded just over 100 students last year to go off, do their own research, dive in to what they're most passionate about, and then bring that back to our campus and share with the student body. That is also true for students who want to get out into the world of work, especially in the summer. many internships these days are not paid, sometimes through connections and so on. And so our Career Center really works closely with students to take advantage of the Colorado College Alumni Network to get students into those internships and support them with living stipends in whatever city they might be in that summer. This last year, we supported just over 100 domestic internships, as well as 15 abroad. So quite an array of offerings for students who might not be able to fund that kind of venture on their own. CC feels like that's such an important part of the work that students should be doing through their four-year curriculum, that we do that in a very, very big way. So on to the next one. Our students, I think, are a really interesting cohort. As you think about it from an academic standpoint, I think that carries over into the co-curricular and extracurricular world as well. They're highly participative. They're coming to our institution to be part of a smaller intentional community where they're known by their first names. They know so many people across cohorts at the institution, right? They're not just trying to find their own clique and stick to it, but trying to be the varsity athlete who's involved in the arts and philanthropy and Greek life, right? So they want to be known and be able to participate in a variety of ways, to be part of both the Colorado College community, the more local Colorado Springs community, to take advantage of what the Front Range of where we are located, and frankly throughout Colorado, offers in terms of outdoors, in terms of service and engagement. So you will find a student body that, even as their academic life is really kind of focused in on that one core subject, their extracurricular lives are going to be, in some ways overwhelming and tough to schedule, because they are involved in so many different things. So that's 100 different clubs and service organizations. We do have Greek life, 3 national fraternities and 3 national sororities. We are athletically, I think, a really interesting institution in that for our size, we belong in Division III, and that's where our primary sports are. But we also play up to Division I in women's soccer and in men's ice hockey. So you get a little dose of that kind of big school camaraderie on Friday and Saturday nights for those games. But we also participate in club and intramural sports. So a majority of our students take advantage of athletic offerings, even if it's in things like rec tennis or flag football or broomball on the ice in our ice arena. It doesn't mean that you're good or that you want to be competitive. It's more that you want to be active and get to know other people on campus. So that's really kind of the tone of the extracurricular world. It is a pretty unique, quite laid back and super engaged student body. So, as you think about kind of the range of options, yes, you can see schools, average test scores and GPAs and things like that. But I think the character of the institution, whether that's by academic format or how strong majors are or field focus or whatever that might be, I think there really is an ability to find, whether at CC or lots of other places, a school that really suits your particular goals, right? It's not only about rankings, although those are indicative of some important factors, but really finding an institution that is going to challenge you and help you thrive all through the 4-year experience. So I hope CC becomes an intriguing option as you move forward. And as you look toward the application process, I do want to highlight a couple of things that are important to us every year, but I think especially in this year. We are, in terms of application format, primarily a common application school. We are also a member of the QuestBridge organization, and so students can apply via the match process that they offer. We also accept the coalition application, though that is a much smaller cohort of students applying in that way. Regardless of the tool that you use, there is not an application fee required of students. We went test optional in 2019, so that feels like a really great decision heading into the review process this year. Last year, it was about 28% of students opted out of test score consideration, at which point we considered the other academic factors that we always look at a bit more heavily to help us understand the students' potential for success at the college. So we don't have a separate essay or anything like that, but really it's a question of whether you feel like those test scores represent you well and show off your potential, understanding that they are a snapshot of a Saturday morning typically, and that may or may not be a very complete picture of how you're going to show up on our campus and how you might be examined or tested once you're here. CC doesn't have a separate writing supplement the way the Common App explains it, excuse me. But we do have a short why Colorado College snippet. It's about 200 words max that we will ask for in the member questions of the Common App. So no full supplement, but we do want to hear from you about why you believe that CC matches your educational goals. And so it's not just to tell us back, I learned all this stuff about the block plan and here it all is, but more about like, here's how I learn and here's how I thrive and here's what I'm looking for in college and here's how you match that up, right? So the focus in any part of your application is very much about you, first and foremost. We know a lot about the block plan already. We don't need to know more about that, but we don't know you already. And we really do want to know how our institution can kind of suit and match your goals. On the financial aid side, we, like Emerson, are a school that requires both the FAFSA and the CSS profile. We do meet the full demonstrated need of every admitted student, regardless of geography or citizenship status or anything like that. We want to make sure that if students are admitted to our institution, that it's a reasonable financial prospect to attend. So that is a philosophical tenet for us, and we make sure that we do a really good job of understanding student and family financial situations to craft a financial aid award that really is affordable, not just to enter CC, but to graduate as well. It doesn't do us, frankly, a whole lot of good if students come into CC and then can't afford to return for year 2 or 3 or 4. We want to make sure that that is a, it's going to be some work, but we want to make sure that that's a reasonable proposition for all of our students. So to that end, we do allocate about 90% of our overall grant and scholarship budget into the need-based program. About 10% is reserved for merit scholarship. And there are a handful of course, athletic scholarships for those 2 D1 programs, but also some specialized academic scholarships, as well as some modest general merit that we will apply to students who are the most competitive in our pool. We do also, like Emerson, carry both early decision programs as well as early action and regular action. So as you think about where any given school falls on your list, there's some degree of strategy in that, of course, that you want to maximize your chances. That's really hard to predict in some cases, but early decision for those schools where you're like, heck yeah, I know I want to be here. That's the place for me. I've done all of the vetting of academic life and co-curricular life and extracurriculars and where I'm going to live on campus, and it's a good financial fit. Sign me up. Great, go for it. That's a pretty high bar, but can be advantageous for students, right? We're trying to manage our pool and those students who clearly can show us that they want to be at our institution. Man, that's pretty tempting. But for students who say, Yeah, Colorado College is a great school. I'm very interested. I've done my research, but I want to be able to weigh my options through the spring, or I really need to see that financial aid offer to be able to trust that that's going to be financially feasible for my family. Early action can be a little bit more viable. Regular action certainly suits other students who want another semester of grades to present. If they think they've got a good upward trend to show, they can wait until January and show a little bit more information. May not be prepared to put the finishing touches on your personal statement. And so being able to use those January deadlines to put those finishing touches on applications can be the right move for other students. So there is a big range there. And I think that's part of the strategy about how you go through this process authentically and find schools that really suit you well. You're going to find deadlines then that comport to what you need from them. I think my final point really though is for any of our institutions, I think you heard it from the other two as well, is that we are here to help. We're not here to say no to students. We're trying to find a way to say yes to great students who fit our community well. We love saying yes. We love helping students move forward through their journey. And I think there are going to be great experiences where students will ask us great questions and determine that, wow, CC's not the best option. And that clarifies why some other school really is the best one. And so being able to go through this process really openly, asking us really pointed, tough questions is a really essential part of this process. It's a big part of any life journey. And of course, there are going to be parts of college life that are easier and tougher than others. But our job on the admission side is to bring clarity to your search and help you understand how any one of us may fit you better or worse than another. I think the great part of this experience is that there are so many amazing institutions out there. Hearing from Emerson and Louisville, it's great because I'm like, oh my gosh, they do such great work for their missions and who they want to serve. And you're going to see that thousands of times over in this search. So I will pause there and open it up for any conversations, Nala, that you have or that students have as we head into the evening here.
Okay. Thank you, Matt.
Of course.
And that was my goal when I put this together, was when I reached out to all the universities, was to really have a diverse, eclectic, variation of schools at each presentation. Because you guys are all very different. And I tell my students that all the time. What is good for one student is not good for another. And as I told you, my nephew actually is a graduate of Colorado College.
Oh, right.
Amazing for him. It was the perfect fit. He was able to go and he loved the block schedule. And he was, 3.5 weeks in the class, but, he used to say that they would take off for 2 weeks and go into the mountains and go camping. And I was like, you were gone for 2 weeks camping? And he goes, yeah, well, I don't have anything else to do. That's the only class and our professor's with us. I was like, oh, that's pretty interesting. Whereas that would never fly on a semester based. There's no way you could leave campus for 2 weeks and make that happen. So once again, it is definitely, for particular students and for a student who has a certain way of learning, as you said, and so fit is really important. And you mentioned it in your presentation with regards to numbers and accolades and stuff like that, and those things are important to some degree, but at the same time, it's about where I always tell my students, it's not where you go, it's what you do with where you go. The resources are available to you on every single college campus. And so as long as you go and you're proactive about your learning, whatever that looks like, you're going to do well. You will do well, wherever that may be. So thank you very much for reiterating that. I'm going to go through my slides at
Perfect.
lightning fast because this is week 14. So masterclass, they've seen it. So masterclass, you know, least expensive of the options, once a month meeting. This September is month 4. So we're going forth with that. And then underclassmen packages include all of the various options with regards to career objectives, college essays, extracurriculars, all of that good stuff, letters of recommendation, who to ask, when to ask, all of that good stuff. You know, whether or not you need to test prep, obviously that's not happening this year, correct, Matt? And then the same goes for upperclassmen options starting 12th grade year. So those of you who are 12th graders, we are 4 months in also into the process at this point. So contact information here for everyone. So I've got V from University of Louisville and her email address, Amy's Mitchell from Emerson College and her email address, and then we got Matt from Colorado College and his email address. But we're gonna open it up to Q&A right now for anyone who wants to ask Matt any questions. I actually know for a fact that there is a student on right now who is an ice hockey player. And I think he's still on. I'm not sure. Yes, he is. So he might have a question for you. And I did not know you guys were D1 for ice hockey. So that's kind of cool. So maybe he might have a question for you, or anyone else who has a question for Matt in Colorado College. I'll give it a minute.
Yeah, I do. Just to speak very briefly about hockey and women's soccer. I think those are, you know, the 2 national programs for us, and it is such an interesting place to be at a small, you know, pretty chill kind of school of 2,200, and then you know, Friday night at the hockey game is pretty loud, and so it's so interesting, right, to be playing military academies for both of those sports. We play against, you know, University of Wisconsin and Notre Dame and a bunch of others in hockey. There's some big name schools coming through town, and we have a practice sheet on campus, but we're building a game day arena right on the south end of our campus that seats about 3,500 people when it's all done. We've got another year of construction before that. So by the time any students arrive back on campus, it should be sparkly brand new.
That's great. Can you speak to some of your stronger academic? I know you guys are on block, but like maybe some of the stronger programs, majors, how that works at Colorado College in comparison to a traditional semester system, if it's any different. I know you said your major was 36 blocks. Was that correct? Is what I heard? 32?
Right. So yeah. So to graduate, you've got 32 blocks, but a major is going to be no more than half of that. So maximum of 16, typically more like 13, 14 for a major at CC. So I would say they're intentionally limited in how much they can do within the major to ensure that students have a good amount of elective time. You know, I think typical of, you know, small liberal arts colleges, things like English, economics, biology, pre-med are all quite big. Our biology program is split in 2. So it's an organismal biology and ecology, which is kind of the bigger of the 2, and then more of like a microbiology kind of program, a little bit smaller, more indoor lab-based than outdoor lab-based. I think you're also going to find super strong programs in things like environmental science, Southwest studies, neuroscience as one of our interdisciplinaries would be quite strong. Geology is a pretty popular course of study, not necessarily major, but a lot of students will do coursework and or a minor in that. So again, yeah, a lot of those field programs, as you talked about, you know, 2 weeks camping with your professor, you know, that sounds like an intro to geology class to me, you know, pretty natural fit that, you know, the best way to to study rocks and landscape is to be out in the rocks and the landscape. So there really is that infusion there. I think over the last few years, the fine arts have really grown in interest. We merged with the Colorado Springs Fine Arts Center, which is its own museum, has a professional theater company, as well as a recreational arts and crafts program for the local community. And so really the range of arts programs has expanded quite dramatically in the last few years. So that's maybe a rebalancing. I think we've been known as a pretty strong science school over the last couple of decades, and arts are making a pretty good resurgence there.
That's great. Thank you. All right, I don't see any questions in the Q&A. I only had one question that was submitted before,
Okay.
and you kind of answered it, but I'm going to ask it anyway.
Great.
With test optional and test blind policy admissions coming for the 2021 season, what factor of the application do you see having a greater impact in admissions decisions?
Right. So the way we redid our rubric last year when we implemented test optional, we opted to weight, I guess what I would call like the direct academic work of the student more substantially, right? So that would be grades, rank if it exists, course selection, meaning how many classes, how rigorous are those classes, of course, in the context of their school and what is offered to them, as well as.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you. I always try to tell the students that, and I said, you are being measured within the context of your school profile. What's that? What's a school profile? And I said, they don't even know what it is. And I said, so don't worry that this wasn't offered at your school or that you didn't have the ability to take, so I know that one of the schools I work with, that they only offer AP Bio every other year. So
that's
if
a great
it doesn't
example.
happen to fall on the year that is available for you, junior year, then you don't get to take it. So that's how you're being evaluated. So I'm sorry, I did not mean to interrupt you, but go ahead.
No, that's an excellent point, right? We are really trying to understand the local foundations, of that school, and do they offer 2 AP classes or 20 AP classes? Our assessment around rigor is maybe going to look a little bit different there. Not that I ever want a student to take all 20, right? But like we might expect that, a student has a reasonable shot at taking a few APs if there's 20 available. And in your scenario, if AP Bio is offered every other year, should we expect every student has that course? No, of course not, right? And not every school is going to have AP. Some may have IB, some are going to have their own, UC affiliated classes or other kinds of early start programs. We're really trying to understand like what are the signals of rigor that are going to help us understand that student is really taking advantage of what is available, and they're striving and they're potentially willing to, sacrifice that straight A for a class that might be a more rigorous kind of experience and not just kind of cruise through to preserve the GPA. We get some narrative context depending on the school from a counselor who can point out aspects of the student's experience or of the transcript that might be important for us to understand. And certainly those 2 teacher recommendations are really crucial for us. That somebody, as students are picking, teachers to write for them, that's a negotiation on the student's part, but, we're so hoping to get some great insight about how students started off in the class, how they made their way midway, how they finished out, what they might know about them afterward. We're looking for growth and meaning that, you shouldn't know everything on day 1 of the class, but that, revealing how a student has struggled, persevered, grown, is super important for us, right? And that they show up, they've asked for help, they've engaged their peers positively. Those kinds of attributes are really important for our student body. And so we're picking that out in the recommendations as well. So long answer to a question about like, what do we do without testing is actually like, well, we care more about the things academically that we've always cared about. And, you know, we've lost a couple of numbers, so be it. You know, this year is going to be an experiment for us. We're looking at what those first year GPAs are going to look like. And I expect that, you know, students that we selected are going to be every bit as successful in our institution as those who had applied with testing.
Yeah, great.
So, you know, we care about writing and extracurriculars and all that other stuff too, but we felt like weighing the academic components where students have spent the most of their time was really the place where we would expand our consideration.
All right. Well, thank you very much. I always say, recommend my students also for letters of rec is what you were saying. I always say did you ever, because we are in a small community here and the schools that we have in the area are small.
Right.
So, you know, I always say, did you ever have a teacher that taught a lower level class and then also ended up teaching that AP class, right? So they saw you as a freshman and then they got to see you again as a junior. Like that's the teacher you want writing for you, because they got to see you when you first came into school and what that was like and how you grew as a freshman. And then they got to see you in an advanced level course and how you grew within that course. I actually used to be that teacher. I taught entry-level science and then I taught AP Bio. So I would always get people, my students coming back asking me to write a letter of rec for them. But that's the type of teacher you want to approach, you know. And I always tell them, you don't always have to ask your teacher or to ask the class where you got an A in that class. Sometimes the teacher who got to see you struggle through the class can speak louder than the one who, yeah, they got an A and they were a great student and wonderful to have, a pleasure to have in class. So that's always my recommendation. I could be.
No, I fully agree. And I mean that like ninth grade and junior year combo is amazing when it can happen. But in whatever scenario, that ability to demonstrate growth within the recommendation is great. And you I'm sure you say this in counseling students, but it's, you know, without being able to see the teacher's other recommendations that they've ever wrote, it is still a negotiation with that teacher to say, I'm hoping that you can speak to this, and this of my experience in your class, and to really, you know, help guide them in how they might provide insight in showing that growth, to say, you know, I'm really proud of this project or this presentation that I did, and can you speak to that and how it fits in their context? I think that can really help them identify aspects to speak about, instead of, as you pointed to, just, you know, this student got an A in my class. Okay, well, I can see that on the transcript already. I don't need a recommendation to do that. And so having a teacher who can really speak specifically to the experience and the growth is quite an advantage.
Okay. Thank you. Well, I am going to leave it out there one more time. Any Q&A left? Anyone who wants to pop in and ask a question before I let Matt go? He got the brunt of the Q&A because Via and Amy had to leave. So are we good? Okay, I'm going to take that as we are good, Matt. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it. And we will go ahead and call it a night. Remember, all our email addresses are here available to you to reach out. I know, and I'm gonna speak clearly for Matt here really quick. Matt was not supposed to present tonight. I had arranged with somebody else to present, and they are no longer at the institution. And I called Matt and I said, oh my God, he didn't tell you that there was a presentation this evening? And he said, don't worry. He goes, I'm gonna do it for you. And I was like, thank you so much. So I got the director of admissions on tonight from Colorado College, who stepped up for us to you know, host this presentation. I really, really, truly appreciate your time and how gracious you are in giving of your time also.
Well, thank you for including us. I super appreciate it.
All right. Well, thank you so much.
All right. Have a good night, y'all.
Have a good night.